Welcome back to the Tech Startup Network podcast. Joining me today is Lily Dash, the founder of Future Caribbean and co-founder of ACTAI Advisors, where she works at the intersection of artificial intelligence, venture building, and economic development. A Barbadian entrepreneur and attorney, she's focused on positioning the Caribbean as a global hub for AI innovation by connecting founders, investors, governments, and international institutions to build the next generation of AI native companies. Lily, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you so much for being here. This is my
Yeah.
first podcast for Future Caribbean.
Oh, exciting. Well, that's a great way to start off, because I'd love to have you start off by sharing with our listeners more about who you are and what you're doing with Future Caribbean.
Yeah, so Future Caribbean, it's relatively young, but it's picked up phenomenal pace. Like we're getting a lot of publicity, like in the US, throughout the Caribbean. The community is growing in leaps and bounds just in the last 6 weeks. But Future Caribbean is a global agentic AI buildathon targeting Caribbean relevant opportunities. So think agentic AI for tourism, agentic AI for the blue economy, green economy, healthcare, music and arts, but disaster coordination, finance. For if we look at the Caribbean, it's a very stark example of a distributed market. What a distributed market means: multiple currencies, multiple legal systems, multiple jurisdictions, regulations, languages, right? But the Caribbean is not quite unique in that regard. South America is also a distributed market. Africa is also distributed. Southeast Asia, Pacific, all distributed markets globally. Most of the world actually is distributed markets. And the distribution and the essence of that distribution sometimes keeps them apart from global financial markets. And that's where all of the growth is. That's where all the asymmetric upside is. So very untethered. So at the moment, quite untethered to global markets, but very tethered to the outcome, which is like inflation, right? And
Mhm.
so growth is there and inflation is there, and it's so how do we tether these economies to global markets? It's great for global markets too. I was just speaking on investing.com and Benzinga, both financial platforms, and they're like, basically there's so much growth that's happening in the US, and the global markets are at the top. Where will the next growth be, right? And distributed markets where nothing has maybe not much growth has happened in the last few years, but maybe a lot of growth could happen in the next few months, right? There's this quote that there's decades when nothing happens, and then there's weeks when decades happen. And I think emerging markets are really well positioned now with this new technology that's now like cut development by pennies on the dollar. Right now anybody can design anything, can create any application that's
Mhm.
customized for their community at pennies on the dollar. And um and 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 entire markets that would have just been too difficult, too complex to coordinate can now be coordinated using agentic AI, and you can bring in capacity at a rate that you couldn't do before. But this buildathon, we've got partners like IDB and Invest. If we look at IDB deploys $34 billion per year to Latin America and the Caribbean. They're the ones that loan money to the governments and private sector organizations that run these economies. We've got ACTAI, Bill. He was the first check in Canva. He was the first check in Zoom. Very good at positioning like the startups for growth. And then we have like the United Nations. I'm here at Ernst and Young's office. They've just signed up to be a partner of ours. We have New York Stock Exchange. Our final will happen at the New York Stock Exchange in September. We're giving our teams, 40 teams are going to get 21 days of sustained compute to build from high rise. So there's a lot of, we're like putting together a war chest of resources for our builders, but
Mhm.
also not just resources in the form of infrastructure, but resources in the form of advisory and strategic. So like we have advisors from IDB, the United Nations, Google DeepMind, Ernst and Young. Just innovation doesn't happen in isolation; it's a cumulative endeavor.
Mhm.
And so, like, how do you build like the next generation of category defining companies, but in a collaborative environment for real places to make real world impact?
Yeah. So zooming out a bit and taking a step back, what was it that inspired the need for Future Caribbean? Was there like a moment that made you realize like something like this is needed? I'm just curious to hear kind of like that defining moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started off in law school in Trinidad in 2013, 2014. So Trinidad is the second cheapest place in the world for electricity because of its proximity to Venezuela. So my friends at the time were like mining Bitcoin and Litecoin, right, in the school dorms where there was free electricity. And so that like really got me into the sea of innovation in terms of distributed ledger technologies and the blockchain ecosystem around the world and the early adopters. Like by that time, Coinbase had not, it was just about coming out. It was just about started. And then, I mean, that curiosity and interest and that involvement brought me to like an incredible global technology community, right? I'm from Barbados, studying in Trinidad. This just put me in it, like people from all over the world that are leading in technologies. And now that community, because the blockchain wave and is very much a part of the agentic AI wave, right? When we think about smart contracts and what Satoshi envisioned, what Vitalik envisioned with their papers, it's this world that operates on federated cooperations, utilizing distributed ledger technologies that can actually execute. So if we think about decentralized autonomous organizations that we heard a lot about in 2018 and 2020 and 21, now we can actually execute on that because you have the horsepower to be able to make meaningful execution, utilizing blockchain rails, which the AI is very good at utilizing blockchain rails. Instant, it's accountable, all of those, it was built for this. Okay, but coming back to it, so I'm from here. I've spent, even though I've been working and I travel quite often, I still live in the Caribbean and never moved. And you just realize, okay, this is needed. We've been untethered from the global technology market. So I've been tethered because I was lucky enough to meet a few people who then inspired me and encouraged me to get into this AI infrastructure space, blockchain space, where you see asymmetric upside. But largely, most regions in the world, like ours, are mostly untethered from any type of asymmetric upside. You see like 1% growth, 1.1% growth, but 4% inflation, right? So all of the inflation, if we look at the financial markets, if you read any of Ray Dalio's work, for example, when you look at what's happened in the US in the last 12 years, like in the last 12 years, like $22 trillion has been issued, right? Where does that money go? It goes straight into the technology markets. So it goes straight into the technology markets. That impacts inflation because now everybody in the global markets now have so much more. So you can justify 4% inflation. But the rest of the world has not been involved, but they import everything from the US market. So they're very tethered to the downside and totally untethered from the upside. And also I live in a region where it's like one of the most underserved regions in the world for technology, and it doesn't need to be that way. So like there's a lot of reasons, but also like the next category, I can see it. I know that like we've seen OpenClaw, we've seen the upside there, we've seen agentic AI, like we've never seen faster growth. We've never seen more GitHub likes in that community. Like we've never more like real world impact, how much more productive everybody can become, how you can apply that to countries, you can apply how that, it's pretty awesome to think about how that could impact real lives, like real people.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's region. There's a multitude of reasons, and that's why the community is like becoming a movement because there's a lot of reasons for this. But creating the next category to find it's the first global initiative of this kind, like in the agentic AI space. We see hackathons where you get together in San Francisco, or you're given a little bit of compute for a day to build some type of, personal assistant tool. But to be able to coordinate across a region of the world for real world impact, like if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Definitely. And so with the Caribbean specifically, like you mentioned that it's untethered from the global markets and whatnot, but I'm curious like why it's such a great location for tech. Like what about it is so innovative and why it needs to get more attention than what it's getting now.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that. I do feel like the Caribbean is trending for multiple reasons right now. Like you can hear it. It's still subtle, but it's loud.
Mhm.
Um, I think like what has geopolitically happened in like the Middle East has not, we've had a whole bunch of tech companies that have moved out there and it's a little bit volatile. It's more volatile. It's not exactly in the backyard. Like the Caribbean is literally in the backyard of the US. The proximity, we're starting to see more data centers be built in the Caribbean as well, which with direct lines to the US markets. It's also on the power side. There's also Guyana has just found enormous amounts of oil, like to compete with the likes of the Middle East, which is so new commercial routes there. Just we speak the same language. We're an hour away, less than an hour away in the case of the Bahamas. It just the maths on the proximity, proximity is power.
Definitely. And you mentioned a few key components that I would love to explore more, but you mentioned like the green economy and the blue economy, which seem to be very prevalent in the Caribbean. So I'd love to hear more about that and what they are, if you could explain them for our audience.
Yeah. So, okay, if we look at the green economy, Guyana just came out with a report. They've been able to sell $400 million worth of carbon credits by
My
protecting
gosh.
their the rainforest, the Amazon there in the last few years. There's carbon credits we can create smart systems on the ocean side. So the Caribbean is full of ocean. Like we call the economists say that we're big ocean states. And we've got more ocean than and so like one there's one company that I've been looking at, and they do like smart buoys. So imagine the buoys are constantly checking the quality and the clarity of the water, and based on the quality and clarity, it's able to sell credits to the global markets for that, right? And credits are becoming more and more um, like influential in that regard. The green economy, we're more and more solar, more and more green energy throughout the region, and I think throughout the world, more and more capacity, more and more EVs, electronic vehicles. And so we have a sponsor out of Los Angeles that's very heavily involved in the solar industry in Los Angeles. We've got a sponsor out of Barbados, both trying to solve similar problems, which is like, how do you create a network of exchange for excess capacity, right? So that you go, it's time to go to sleep for you, and you realize you have all this excess energy. Can you sell it to your neighbor, right? Can you, and to power, or can they? Yeah. So there's that, like increasing the efficiency, which otherwise without the technology, the math wouldn't math on, because it'd be too much to coordinate for these small micro amounts. But now we can do that at scale. But yeah, I think that those in the financial space, if we look at fragmentation and the cost of fragmentation, so we've got like 15 currencies in the Caribbean. If I want to do a trade between Barbados, Trinidad and Barbados, I have to go from Trinidadian dollars to US dollars to Barbados dollars, because the coordination framework is not there to be able to coordinate directly. And now with agentic AI agents, you can deploy 100 agents to each bank account, and you can deploy and match capital liquidity pools instantly. So it's all about like, how do you bring T, being time, down to zero? Like if you can bring T down to zero, like you can open up financial markets, you can open up markets. Like disaster coordination is one that we're looking at super heavily. A hurricane, an earthquake in the case of Venezuela, they happen, and then it just sets them back. Traditionally, it would set them back decades to be able to quantify damages, all done manually by foot. When we have like state-of-the-art new satellite imagery, we have state-of-the-art new agentic systems that can quantify instantly if given the right data to crunch, and the data's there. So that's like the difference between getting an insurance payout in a year from now, or getting it the next day, or even getting it the day before the storm, because you can equate how much damage is going to happen to your particular property based on a particular rating.
Definitely. Yeah. And so I think it's really interesting to think about all the opportunities that are available in this area, which is amazing. Yeah. And
And
I know you like,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know you like briefly mentioned the Buildathon and kind of gave us a sneak peek into that, but would love to dive into that further and just hear exactly what you're doing with that, when it's going to be offered, how people can get involved. Like, would love to hear all the details.
Yeah. Okay. So you can go to futurecaribbean.com. Applications are open. We're looking for the best talent in the world. It's a global call. We have incredible deployment partners. Like no other Buildathon will give you the type of deployment opportunities and partnerships. Like we're giving our teams advisory sessions with some tremendous financial capacity. So the opportunities exist. to be able to build real world deployment systems. So yeah, but you can go to the website. The application form is pretty simple. I think it would take about 20 minutes to submit it, and join our community. The community is growing. Yeah, that's what I'd
Yeah.
say.
Oh, love it. And I'm curious to hear because you're also the co-founder of ACTAI. So how do you balance both? I mean, I'm so impressed that you are able to juggle both companies and have the resources and whatnot to dedicate to them.
Yeah, well, ACTAI has just been tremendously like pivotal and in the creation of this, right?
Yeah.
ACTAI stands at frontier technology. So Bill Tai, the founder of ACTAI, which is a global community of founders and innovators and athletes, like he was the first check in Canva. You know, when Melanie Perkins was 23 years old in Perth, Australia, she took the idea to him and she was like, this is the first check, and here's some strategic resources in terms of some people that work at Google and a co-founder, et cetera, et cetera. And similarly, early days of Zoom. So in the VC space, in the tech space, you want to be on the frontier. You want to be in the sea, right? You can't
Mhm.
catch a wave if you're not in the sea. You can't be on the beach and catch a wave, right? You really have to take massive action and get amongst it. And that's what this is, like really globally getting amongst it. Like Canva was found through a tech competition in Perth, Australia. It was a competition that she applied for, and that's how she. So similarly here, we're really looking for the next category defining company. These projects and ideas, and to tap into these open claw ecosystems and agentic ecosystems and builders who are building companies that we haven't even conceived of yet.
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting. It's very interesting because there's two sides of this. Like we just had a $6 billion fund out of Singapore just apply on our website to sign up to see deal flow. Like just come on. So that's what people have been signing up from Google DeepMind and other like global organizations to come and they want to see that there's something special happening here. So there's something special in that you're right on the early frontier of agentic AI and deployment, and then real world application, and then there's the Caribbean, which is this great opportunity region that's right outside on the back door of the outside the back door of the US.
Yeah,
So it's plenty of
definitely.
interesting reasons.
Totally. And I think it's so awesome that through like this grassroots method, you've really been able to build this community. And so I always love chatting with community builders of like how you actually were able to spread the word. If there's like marketing techniques that worked for you or how you're able to get so much organic growth so quickly, which is incredible.
Yeah. So when you're building something that's really important and it's needed and it aligns with people, you actually don't have to spend a dollar. The community, like all of our growth has been through Caribbean people that see the alignment and see that it's needed. Like I just was just on New York NY1, right? On their big stage with all the TVs around in New York City. And I got that because one of our community members works at Google DeepMind. If you look under the hood of any Caribbean, any company, like any large company, whether that's Facebook, Nvidia, you're going to find a Caribbean person, right? You're going to find a Trinidadian or Jamaican or Barbadian. Anyway,
Mhm.
one of them signed up on our website to advise teams, and she aligned so much with the story. She went across the street, pitched the idea, pitched the interview, pitched like this opportunity for it, and the word got out in that way. And that's how it's all been happening. There hasn't been, and now we have like a 500 member WhatsApp. We have like 300 people on Discord. We've got like another 300 or 400 advisors and partners. And I haven't even put a pitch deck together for this. I
Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
I just told the story, like 12 weeks ago. So I told the story and they're like, yeah, I'm in for this. This makes sense.
Yeah.
Here's the resources, just when when the maths on something, when it makes sense and things are aligned, it's not, you know, Bill Tai, he has been such an enormous mentor for me, and he's like, you can't make the wave, you can only ride it. You
Mhm.
can't, so often as entrepreneurs, I can speak for myself, like sometimes you're building something, it just feels like you're pushing a rock up a hill, like it's hard, and these things don't. But when you're working on something, that it just things just start to fall into place, like naturally the resources find you. Yeah, I don't know if that makes. I
No,
think that's the
totally.
biggest for founders. I think you really want to make sure that you're aligned and there's a wave, there's the force of nature is with you on what you're
Definitely.
building.
Yeah, and as you shared, I mean, it's so awesome that you've gotten all these advisors and partners who have joined without you even like putting together a pitch deck, which is amazing and a huge feat. And so, for anyone who's listening to this episode who's thinking about becoming an advisor or sponsor or partnering with Future Caribbean in some way, like why should they? What are the benefits of getting involved?
One, access to incredible talent and pipeline and like next generation ideas and applications that we haven't even thought of yet that are mind blowing. Like when I have these advisor calls, because we set up these calls, and you might have a team from China talking to a partner, like one of our partners, right? Like one of the like a private sector partner might be interested in trying to figure out what's the next. How can Frontier Agentic AI like supercharge my business? So they
Hmm.
want to partner with these teams. They want to see firsthand what's possible. And you just look at them on the other side of the screen as they're doing these, and their eyes are just like popping out, right? And it's changing the teams as well. So then the CEO will come back to me and he'll be like, "Yeah, my CTO saw this, and now he's just changed. Like now he's super on the like now he's on frontier. Like it changes the energy and the culture when you're onto something brand new. And
Hmm.
there's so much like innovation doesn't happen in isolation. And in the past, how companies would upgrade, which I don't think is necessarily the right way now, is like they go out to the market, they try and get some quotations together to for applications that help their business, and they're not really for purpose. I mean, they're for purpose, but they're not customized applications.
Hmm.
And you kind of have to swallow something that's not custom for you and your environment and your employees. And now you can really build in collaboration, customized solutions for your business that can be implemented right away and that are more natural and more native to your own people, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, Frontier, we have an also incredible network. Like just yesterday, I put a huge, like just two partners, right? One on the compute side and one on another side, like huge partners. And you can put them together and they do deals of their own, like meeting, like, new people. So there's a lot of value in this ecosystem naturally.
Definitely.
Yeah, on the knowledge side, on the implementation side. Also, if a partner like if it's an infrastructure partner wants to come on board to lend resources to builders, then they get like cross pollination with all of our other partners, which could
Mhm.
also become clients, which I've literally seen firsthand in that way as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, in addition to the Buildathon that's happening this year, what are other developments that are going on for Future Caribbean? If there's anything else that you're working on that you're able to share with us.
Yeah, we're really focused on making the Buildathon as successful as possible and to have as many incredible category defining companies come out of this. And then it really become like a venture ecosystem for the Caribbean. There's nothing like this exists right now. It does not exist. Like if you're, I don't even know where an Anthropic or an OpenAI would come without to be able to implement. Right? They would have to go to each and every individual government maybe and try to put individual there's nothing quite like this. That the Caribbean has 100 million people of Caribbean heritage, all
Mhm.
scattered throughout multiple different islands, different cities. So to access the critical mass of builders before would have been quite tough, and now we're creating a bridge for that, which is quite unique.
Yes, absolutely. And so, for anyone who's looking to kind of like start their own community, I mean, for someone who's built an incredible community so quickly to such a big number, like what advice would you give to someone else to get started when it comes to this?
Use AI as much as possible. Make
Yeah.
sure you're agentic. Make sure you're agentic first. Also, make sure that what you're doing is important. And I find like once there's a big enough reason for what you're doing, the energy comes to you, right? It you might think, oh my God, how am I going to get the energy to do this, right? To show
Hmm.
up in this way, but like once you're aligned, like the energy comes, you can have incredible amounts of energy that you didn't even think you had to be able to pursue something that is very meaningful. And community, it's all about community. Everything is about community. Like my potential is realized when I come in contact with you or another person. So creating that, like the potential of your community and ecosystem and for community builders all around the world in AI especially. It's like a whole new moment for all of us in the Caribbean, but all of us in the world, right? I was speaking to some guys in the Middle East over the weekend, and they're like, we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars in legacy infrastructure, technology infrastructure, and now with agentic AI, almost as though everybody's now starting again, right? You can start from the ground up. May as well start from the ground up.
Yeah.
So you were all on an even playing field in this regard. It's a big leveler, and nobody's exempt. And the AI, there's a lot of energy in AI. There's a lot of people, certainly everybody. It's a revolution, really. AI is like and you can build community in this space. And if you serve them and bring resources and create value, and it's worth so much more than the sum of its parts, what you guys are able to create together. So I would recommend anybody do that.
Love that advice. Lily, this
And
has
if
been
there's
such a
anybody in your if you guys have communities that would like to be part of this, and would love anyone to join.
yeah, and that's the perfect segue to my next point for you is I'd love to have you share with our listeners they can find you online in case they'd like to connect and learn more about getting involved with Future Caribbean.
Yes. Okay. So futurecaribbean.com. We have on the bottom of the website, we have a link to our WhatsApp channel, our Discord, and our Tap In. So Tap In is where we do our videos. Our WhatsApp is just hundreds of messages going back and forth every hour. That is a very active community and growing. Our Discord is more intentional in that every track is separated. All the teams from each track are in each team. We're having an event in Barbados this weekend. It's a 2-day event, like builder event. So welcome to join us there. It's hosted at the IDV office. It's a meetup. I'm actually having an event tonight in Trinidad. We have one coming up in New York, which will be epic in at the end of July, August. So stay tuned. If anybody's out in New York, it would be amazing to have you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lee, for coming on today's show. I will link all those places in the show notes for listeners to easily find you and connect with you, but really appreciate your time and sharing what you're doing with Future Caribbean.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I really appreciate your time as well. And thank you to your listeners.